Senate Minority Leader, Senator Abaribe, thank you so much for talking to us on China's television.
Thank you.
Let's begin the conversation around national security. But let's get your view, because the Senate at some point, you had a summit on security. The House of Representatives also had a summit on national security. From your own point of view, what are you hearing, or what do you know? What can you tell Nigerians that is a major problem of insecurity in Nigeria?
If there's any issue that the National Assembly has continually discussed and analyzed and spoken about, is the issue of security. I think Nigerians, the major problem we have, I guess, is the fact that we have refused to tell the truth to ourselves. At any time that you tell the truth, what happens is that you are labeled by the apologists of this government of, you don't like our government, you are from an opposing party and all that. But the point really is this: it's affecting each and every one of us in this country and at all parts of the country. No one in this government and no one in Nigeria today can say that when this government came into power in 2015, that it was as bad as this. So we seem to have continually regressed. And we saw the signs coming. If you recall, sometimes, I think it was about 2017, I raised the issue on the floor. I went to the extent of calling for the resignation of the president, because I said, what we're seeing does not seem like a government that is prepared to confront a problem that it used to come into power. Because the government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC used the matter of insecurity to say that they were going to deal with it in no time at all. And most Nigerians believe what they said. But we now saw from that time that what was going on was that an escalation, first of the Boko Haram problem, second of the purported herder-farmer clash, then of instigation of violence in all the southern parts of the country. And we felt that there was something wrong here. And we asked the question, and I remember I asked the question, and I said, how could this government, instead of tackling the insecurity that came in from 2015, continually gave different reasons, and it got to a point where the presidential spokesman, Femi Adesina, this was what was going on in the Benue or Plateau or something that time, says, okay, if you want to leave, you leave your land. In other words, there was an attempt at a land grab. And rather than the government to say, this is wrong, this is not the Nigeria we know, this is not how we are supposed to tackle the problem, people were told by this government, your land or your life. And of course,
did they really say that?
I remember the quote by Femi Adesina. He said, will it rather not be better that you're alive than to hold on to your land? So what does that mean? Is it your land or your life? This was 2017, 2018. And so we are progressively, and then all of a sudden, we now had shifting From at the time that we were getting to the elections of 2019, there seemed to be a lull, if you recall. And immediately after the elections of 2019, and President Buhari was declared winner again, there was another explosion, this time towards the Northwest. And we saw a rebranding of these terrorist influence attacks. And so they now started being called bandits. And so we found that at all times, efforts were being made to not to tackle the problem head on, as it were, but at all times, efforts were being made. People were being pacified. Bandits were now terrorists were now called bandits, and said, "Oh, what they're doing." And then we had people going along to, and then of course, children, our children in schools now became fodder because there were multiple kidnappings, and you could see from Dapchi to Kankara to Jangebe to, I mean, all over. And it still continues up to today. Ransoms were being paid. And then we got to even the point where we saw a state governor meeting with these terrorists. And they were brandishing their guns, and we were saying there was a negotiation going. Of course, no no blackmailer gives up. You see, once you continue to pay, he will continue what he's doing. And that's exactly what has happened with payment of ransom. But the point really is that all over the country, we now saw an upsurge of people carrying military-grade weapons, following cattle, and then attacking communities, doing kidnappings, and creating a general state of insecurity and fear. So people could no longer go to farms in the food belt of the country, which is Benue, southern Kaduna, all the way down coming towards Niger, Enugu, and then parts of the west. And so what most of us feel today is that it's very difficult for this government to deal with the problem, because you first have to acknowledge that there is a problem. Now, this government were very quick to tag the separatists and people who were doing agitation in the southeast terrorists, because they know the implication of tagging anybody a terrorist. And every effort being made to say, why these people who are doing all these things in the northeast, in the northwest, and so forth, why wouldn't you also designate them so that the full weight of international opprobrium will land on them? And every effort is made to, beautify the word and say it's bandits. But then this set of people have been able to shoot down a military aircraft. And so it's no longer that they are just people who are doing kidnapping for ransom.
Because I want us to look at the problem of this insecurity, because it's a major one. And every sector of the country has its own share of it.
Yes.
And from the point of view of the National Assembly, because you are government too, you are part of government,
Yeah.
And so in looking for the solution, that was why I asked the question, what have you identified in your own position? You are the leader of the minority in the National Assembly, in the Senate. What have you identified as a problem? One single thing that you see that is a major problem.
The major problem is the inability of the government to want to tackle that. The single most dangerous part is this influx of non-Nigerians with military-grade weapons sweeping across our countries, going into the countryside and committing mayhem. But no effort is made to profile them. No effort is made to make sure that there is a counter surge against them. No effort is, all that has been happening has been pacification. Let me just put it that, not pacification, I'm sorry. All that has been happening is an attempt to reach agreements. How do you reach agreements with a terrorist who is coming from outside the country trying to take over? Because you see what's going on in the Plateau State just in the past few weeks. That is emblematic of what has been happening. Group of people come in, sack a community, and then if the community fights back, then our own security people fight the community for defending themselves. So it's something that you just cannot imitate. The National Assembly did a security summit. The Senate did a security summit. That was when the previous leadership of the armed forces were there. We brought out certain resolutions and everything that they said bordered on, we don't have enough equipment, we need to recruit more men, and we approved everything. And after that was done, a report was brought and it was taken to Mr. President. When we were debating it, part of this thing was a rejigging. And when they say rejigging, of course, at that point, people felt that the leadership at that time no longer, the leadership of the military, no longer had the confidence of those that were following them, and meant that maybe we needed to change the coach, let's just put it that way. But that has been done.
You don't think there is any improvement?
I have not seen any measurable improvement in the sense that Nigerians feel safer. I don't think anyone does. On the contrary, every day brings a new challenge. And we really think that the government has just doesn't have the capacity to do it anymore. Yeah.
Because one of the things that the present administration has said is that this problem wouldn't have gotten to this problem had your government of the PDP before 2015 spent the monies meant for military hardware for what it was meant, not to have been stolen. Those are the accusations against the PDP government. And these are being underlined by this government that is one of the major problems, that they inherited a military, a police that is short of the kind of equipment that it needs to fight the war that is confronted by the nation.
I think one of the most unfortunate parts of what has happened to us is the tendency for this government to lie to itself and believe its own lies. in the build-up to the 2015 elections. If you recall, we didn't have any insurgency in the Northwest. We didn't have any in the Southwest. Neither did we have any in the Southeast. The problem in the South in the Niger Delta had been largely resolved by the PDP government of President Yaradua. Recall also that before the elections, there was also, because the major area of problems was basically the Northeast, and basically in two states, maybe just in another one, Borno, Yobe, and part of Adamawa, if we all tell ourselves the truth. And the government at that time, or President Jonathan, also asked for time so that they can be sure that elections are done peacefully everywhere. And there was a sweep that brought all these dangerous people were actually sent out of Nigeria. The point really, like I told you, is that when people develop selective amnesia in this government, that is their issue, not ours. At the point at which we handed over in 2015, most parts of Borno State had been cleared and people had been told to move back.
With some 18 local government or so, still have a senator.
Yes, at that time, it wasn't
hosting of flags.
That is what I'm saying. They had already removed all of them. Then, this government came into place. That's what I'm talking about, selective amnesia. This government spent how many months to even get a government going. Those who were fighting the wars, including those who were brought from outside at that time, who had even decimated were all sent away. And then gradually, the same Boko Haram people started creeping back. And I said that from that time, that was when we now started getting people coming into this country. And these same apologies of our government making excuses for them. Understand that at that time when we queried, and that's why I like the fact that there's always the facts. There's always the intent, doesn't lie. At that time, I remember in 2016 and 2017, when we queried, I said, who are all these people who are not speaking Nigerian languages, who are coming in carrying this thing? What happened? We were told, first of all, by President Buhari himself, that it was a fallout of the civil war in Libya. When we queried further to say, why are these people in Plateau and in Benue killing and murdering villagers and sacking villages? We were told that, that it was because people were on grazing routes and were blocking those because of, remember, the Minister of Defense at that time, Dan Manso, made that statement. And when we went further to ask again, how could it be that people have been murdered all over the place? And you're telling us that it is just herder-farmer clash. At every point, there will always be a narrative. At that time, did you hear of anything in Southern Kaduna? Did you hear of anything in Katsina? Did you hear of anything in Zamfara? Did you hear of anything in Kebbi? Nothing. A safe country was handed over to APC. And in the past 6 years of APC, all this safe country has now turned into a killing field for Nigerians everywhere. We can argue endlessly about it, but the facts cannot be controverted.
What do you see as a possible solution? If, for example, you are given the opportunity to turn this around and fix the security situation in the country, what would you do?
The first thing is that I get those who know what to do the work. I don't now introduce nepotism into the security architecture. Understand this, Shehu. And I would like Nigerians to controvert me on this if I'm lying. I remember that when the appointments were being made in the security agent, and we said, no, something is wrong here. How could we just continue to put just a particular set of people from a particular side of the country, from a particular religion, that this is a secular country and multi-ethnic country? One of the very key phrases that was always used at that time was, oh, leave the president to make his appointments for those that he trusts. We don't care whether they come from one kitchen, so long as he trusts those. And we said no. Certain things you have to do on competence. So, if I need to do a surgery in my eye, I'm not going to go and find a native doctor to come and do it. I will find a trained ophthalmologist. And that is how it is with most parts of life. You don't just put people just because you like them or they are from your house or something like that and say, go and do a job that is beyond their capacity. So what we are seeing is the consequence of what a friend of mine called the weaponization of nepotism. When you leave those who are competent to do a job and then you give it to some other people and justify it in all manners of ways, because you can justify anything on this earth, the consequence will always be that we will suffer for it. And Nigeria is, I'm sorry, in very dire straits today because of this type of judgment.
So you will get to go after people even if they're mercenaries or not Nigerians?
Who will do the job is the most important thing.
Not minding whether they are not Nigerians.
Let me say this.
Because the government of PDP made use of mercenaries. Would you use that? Would you consider such?
It got the job done then, didn't it? We got the job done. We could not do election. And that election was what the election that brought in President Buhari. We got the job done. That is the most critical thing. The most critical thing today, look, one of the things that pains me personally, and I've had discussions with friends of mine who are in the military, and every time I say this, the Nigerian military went to Congo, imposed order in Congo in the 60s. The Nigerian military in the 80s went to Liberia, went to Sierra Leone, imposed order, which means that the problem today is not the Nigerian military has the capacity, and I continue to say they do. But somebody on Channels Television, too, gave us a hint of what the problem was, which is that the military has to work under the leadership of the civil authority. And when the civil authority doesn't give them that go ahead to be able to deal with that issue, we all run into problems. I think that if it's in terms of funding, when somebody now tells you, oh, they stole money, it's not true.
You mean monies
no,
were not stolen?
I said
that
it is not, that is not the reason why we are unable, because we also found out that whatever little success that was done at the early part of this administration, it was the arms and ammunition that was bought by the PDP government.
Are you saying that monies were not being carted away from the
No,
NSA's office? These were allegations made, and they were taken to court. That there were monies that are being given by people, and some people owned up to it, that they actually took those monies.
You know what goes on, and I think I don't want you also to fall into that trap. The trap is, under Jonathan, we voted $2 billion. I was part of the Senate that done that, and they bought equipment for this. If a few people, their fingers were found in a few fries, is that what you will say that the whole money was stolen? It wasn't.
A lot of money was stolen.
Well,
Millions in dollars.
See, that is the problem. That is the problem with this narrative. Sheer incompetence is now being subsumed under a phantom people stole money. And I say it is sheer incompetence.
Are you saying monies were not stolen?
No, Sean, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying monies were or were not stolen. I'm saying that it is the incompetence of the leadership and the direction of the fight against the insecurity and the terrorists and everything that have besieged Nigeria, that rather than own up, people now start looking for where to hang. And then the first thing to do is, oh, PDP people stole. Please, Sean, the day we're going to have a conversation, on the amount stolen in this government, I'm sure Nigerians will be, they will shudder.
You have evidence that monies are being stolen in this government?
So I say when that conversation will come. Usually conversations come when a government leaves power, because people, whistleblowers, all manners of people who could talk, will find it very difficult to do so while they are still the perpetrators inside that government. So I don't want us to cover the failings of those who have the critical responsibility of our security on saying PDP did what. Let's put it this way. Show 6 years. Assuming anything went wrong before 6 years, things have progressively gotten worse. How can you now turn around and blame it on what happened 6 years ago? The reason why you came into power, you told us, was, I'm a general. I have the wherewithal. I know the way to tackle this problem. And Nigerians say, fine, this is our biggest problem. Let's give you that opportunity. And since that opportunity had been given till today, what have we had?
Right.
It has been one excuse after another. But I think there was a famous United States president I think Harry Truman, who says, the buck stops on my table. We now have a president that every effort is made to say that the buck doesn't stop on his table. And we say no. The reason why you are elected with your government and given the full reins of power is that everybody expected improvement. We didn't expect that it will get worse.
Let me take you to the southeast, where you're representing your people from Abia State. And there is also a share of some of these elements of insecurity. But let me ask first and foremost, are you a supporter of IPOB?
I'm a supporter of the cries of our people against injustice. Against injustice. Last, I think it was on Friday, so I was chairman of a book launch, Children of Biafra. It was a book, or it's a book, about the Biafran war, seen through the eyes of a child. So several people wrote their childhood experiences. Very, very poignant book that everybody needs to read. Because children don't cause wars. It's us elites going around trying to and in my statement, because I was chairman of that book launch, I said that a short while ago, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar made a statement, whether jokingly or not, and that statement was that the actions and the policies of this government, present government, is turning everybody into a Biafra. So, and I just looked at that statement, and what did he mean by that statement? He just said, everybody complaining about injustice, everybody complaining about marginalization, everybody complaining about the rampant nepotism, everybody complaining. So I stand with my people.
Even if it is IPOB. You said you stand against injustice.
Against injustice
but
with
even
my
if it's
people.
IPOB or anything.
There are several groups. So one of the biggest, I'd say, problems that the media also has is that they tag everything IPOB. In the Southeast, you won't believe it, that there are more than 30 different separatist organizations. IPOB, MASOB, there are so many.
Which of them?
And each one of them comes back to the same thing. But I have also said to myself, Civil War ended in 1970. By 1979, somebody from that enclave, from the same place, from the Southeast, Dr. Alese Kweme of blessed memory, was a vice president of this country, which showed that there were people who were able to manage the diversity of Nigeria. Why you're having separatist agitations everywhere today in the West, in the South, Side, and all that, is that some people are unable to manage our diversity. That is just the fact.
I mean, Senator,
yes.
You've not told us whether or not you psychologically or physically or intuitively support IPOB.
Why do you want to know whether I support IPOB?
Okay.
I want to know.
I want to know whether you ideologically also.
It looks to you.
No. I'm asking because you've not answered it. That's why I'm bringing it back again.
Let me also say this. So it looks to me like you want to put everybody in one bracket. This one is an IPOB ban.
No, no,
this one is a Masogia.
No, I'm just asking a question, Senator.
No, that's what you're doing.
No, I'm just asking a question.
Doing.
If you do, maybe ideologically you support.
I have asked you, I have said, there is nobody from the Southeast that I know who does not feel that the way that people from the Southeast are treated today. That's why I brought back what happened immediately after the Civil War. Treated today. Do not feel that there is something fundamentally wrong, which should be resolved. And unless it's resolved, you will always have this.
When we get to that issue, do you regret standing surety for Nnamdi Kanu?
Not at all. I've even said in another interview, I think it was on TV, said that if the secretary had the same thing today, I will still stand surety. Because, Sean, what was the problem? What exactly was the problem? You feel that you're being unfairly treated. And at every point that you try to make and say, why don't we talk about it? You're being blocked at all points. And then, of course, if you're a youth, you erupt. That's what normally happens. What happens is that you come in and do a dialogue with people. President Yaradua, at the point at which the Niger Delta was burning, the oil pipelines were being broken, and oil production had fallen to an all-time low. Didn't go in with guns, didn't go in to say, let us kill everybody, let us jail everybody. He opted to say, come and tell us what the problem was. And that largely resolved the issue up to today. So why is it that the government of APC today has an aversion to dialogue? Why? What is it that makes any time that the Southeast is mentioned, hackles are raised? What is it about this particular government? And that's why I went back to say there had been other governments, including Fulani governments. So what is it about something?
So let me ask you, Senator, what, because people generally speak about the Igbos being marginalized, but that is a very general term to describe the agitation on the minds of those who say Igbos are being marginalized. What is this marginalization in specific term?
I ask another question. So, if you say, sit down and write out what it means. Sit down and write out what this marginalization. Of course, if I write, you will see it from an elitist point of view. Okay, so they didn't give you A or B or C, and say, why not? No, that's not the thing. There is a general lack of empathy about the sufferings of people. There is a general, I would say, closure of the space for business and every other way that people see when they live in a country. At the point at which, even as at today, there are more police checkpoints in the Southeast than in the Northeast, where the problems are, than in the Northwest. You will never believe it. You go from one city to the other, from Onitsha to Owerri, several, you will see up to 10, 20 checkpoints. Why? Why are people being subjected to the fact that children growing up at school age. One will have to score 300, another one will score 2 in order to be able to go to the same school. Why? Why would the local importer who needs to bring his goods and able to raise his money and do his business, all the ports in the eastern coast, starting from Warri, Koko, Port Harcourt, One, Calabar, and all that, be non-viable, and the insurance rates are higher. The cost of bringing it is higher, so you have to move through Lagos. So somebody who now needs to do his business has to move it by land, costing so much. Why is it shown that there is a master plan for railways and efforts and monies are borrowed to do standard gauge lines on the western corridor, and then you're told that on the eastern corridor, which starts from Port Harcourt and goes all the way to Maiduguri, because it goes through the heartland of the south, it shall say, oh no, what we're just going to do is to rehabilitate the old one, forgetting that in the same railway master plan, they are supposed to meet somewhere. So how would a narrow gauge intersect with a standard gauge, assuming that you want both of them to meet somewhere so you can move out goods and so forth? Why? And when questions are asked, you are now seen as a troublemaker when you ask those questions. And then we turn around and say, but okay, and elements of this government are very, very quick to run to a default position. So we know the default position. Oh, PDP, they were thieves. Yeah, and so that is why. How?
Senator,
I mean, and then they say, oh, but you were in power. Why didn't you do it? No. Government is supposed to be a continuum. So I do my good, you come in, you improve it. Another one comes in, he improves on that. But you take a position that is not so good, and we now say, no, there's something that we need to correct here. And then you fall back, as if it's written. Okay, anytime you ask a question, go back to all of you are thieves. You know, I'm in the National Assembly here. I suffer part of it. And I go out and people say, but you people, you're all thieves. What do you do?
would an Igbo president resolve this matter in 2023?
Let me put it this way, Sean. The man who the shoe pinches now knows where it hurts. The Igbo are the people in Nigeria who make the conscious effort of leaving their homeland to settle anywhere else without hurting their roots. At any point where they go to stay with their roots, you have never heard that they kill and maim and burn and all that. So they know how to aggregate everybody's, feelings, their customs, their laws, their mores, they are everything. And so because of that, we feel that the Igbo will understand you, will even have the time for you. Today, we don't feel that this government has the time for anybody. I'm no longer talking Igbo now. I'm talking about the whole of Nigeria. They only talk to themselves and only listen to themselves.
So if an Igbo man becomes a president in 2023, you don't think that will resolve the matter?
You will see a tremendous change, starting with the fact that he will be able, or she will be able, to manage our diversity better.
So invariably, there needs to be an Igbo president in 2023.
You're putting words in my mouth.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Invariably.
No, I'm just asking. Do you think that an Igbo presidency is right in 2023?
Is right in 2023, number one. But number two, we think that the party called APC is not set up to manage Nigeria properly. And so it has to be our own party that has been able to carry everybody along. And those of us Igbos within our party, knowing that you have to play politics, you have to be able to talk to people, you have to be able to let people see your own point of view and buy into your vision, are doing the consultations now.
And you think PDP is making that concentration? Because
Yes.
what we are understanding is that PDP has ceded the presidential slot to the North in 2023.
I do not think so. I've been part of all the negotiations and the talks going, and I have never seen where there was any such ceding.
Should
I
that
don't
happen?
think so.
Should that happen? How would that sit with you?
If my party will make a decision, then it is at that time that I will make my own feelings known, not to preempt, because when one of the biggest problems we do is that we try to shape our narrative as if we are giving ultimatums. Because when should that happen, then this happen. That's giving an ultimatum. So that's not how to do a negotiation.
Your name had come up in conversations as a possible candidate for your party in 2023. Should that lot fall on you? What would you do?
I would, if it falls on me. Within 6 months, all these things would be a thing of the past.
Have you ever considered being a president of Nigeria?
I will say this. If you ask former Governor Muazu of Bauchi State, we had a conversation of this nature in the year 2000, and he asked me one question, wouldn't you like to be president of Nigeria? And I said, of course, who would not like to head this beautiful country? That was far back as 2000. But
is your answer still the same?
Let's put it this way. Cheung, my good friend and brother, Peter Obi, said something when this type of questions came out, and says, if you have a vehicle with a knocked engine, who would you look for? Will you look for a very good driver for a vehicle that the engine will not move? what you should do first is to go look for a mechanic. Is that not so? A good mechanic to make sure that the engine can run. I think we are at the point today in Nigeria where we need that type of mechanic.
And it could that be you?
Could be. I'm sure Nigerians will be able to make up their mind who it can be.
Or do you think you are the kind of mechanic in coach that Nigeria needs?
Why not? The people who are there today, Sean, I don't think that they are much better than me. Do you think they are?
You think you can do a better job?
I think I can do a more fantastic job than what I'm seeing. What I'm saying, just to...
Do you support the sit-at-home order?
I think the sit-at-home order was eventually renounced, I think, because we also heard that the IPOB said no more, let the sit-at-home be only when their leader comes to court. But we find that subsequent to that time, after that time, that people still sit. Generally, there's a form of compliance. It should worry the government if a non-state actor is complied with in this manner. It takes us back to what I said at the beginning, that there is need to sit and talk with these people, not to at all times demonize and try to wave them off of people you can crush by kinetic means. Because the point is this: if you are a discerning person, you should ask yourself, why? Why do people steal despite all the assurances, despite the fact that they are losing, are willing to make that sacrifice? In other words, you can crush people physically, but you cannot crush an idea. And so you need to be able to engage so that that idea is what the discussion is all
Don't you think,
about.
from what I hear, that some of these members of IPOB forcefully make people to sit at home?
So let's put it this way too. How do you make the whole of them in the Southeast sit at home? How? What is their number?
The government has tagged IPOB a terrorist organization.
Unfortunately.
It stands as a terrorist organization.
Unfortunately. Very
But
unfortunately.
when you say dialogue, has that period not passed? Is that window still?
There's no time.
Is there still a possibility of a dialogue?
People who are shooting at each other in a war also sit and dialogue. So there is no time that you have, removed that. It is those who will prefer that Nigeria breaks up, really, and burn and all that, are those who are now telling this government, don't ever agree,
Should that
if the Israelis and the Egyptians could sit and talk, you just cannot tell me that brothers within the same country cannot sit and talk.
would you be willing to midwife if such a window opens?
I know, as a matter of fact, that efforts have been made by well-meaning Nigerians to this government for such discussions to happen, but it has always been rebuffed. This government needs to dialogue with everybody. I'm not just talking about the IPOB people. Like I told you, there are so many organizations. This government needs to dialogue with the Yoruba separatists. This government needs to continue dialoguing with the Niger Delta people. This government needs to talk and dialogue with the people from the Middle Belt, the people from Plateau, the people from Southern Kaduna. You must have to continue to talk to all these people because there is something going on. And what is going on is that our people are being killed, massacred, robbed, and all. We just seem to sit and not bother on the massive mayhem going on within the country. We just seem to, oh, let us just continue, let's do an election, and people are dying every day.
Senate Minority Leader, Senator Abaribe, such a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
At any other time.